There we go. First time on Facebook. So hello everyone, welcome to the All Blacks edition. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinions. And yeah, it's a solo show tonight, so it's going to be me on my own. And it's the All Blacks edition, so talking about some, All Blacks tonight. And we are live for the first time ever on Facebook, on my Facebook page. So you can watch on there. You can watch on YouTube. So hi Jack and Christian, who are already there, and a few others. And you can also watch on Periscope as well. So for tonight, I'll be getting the messages, live messages through the chat on YouTube and Facebook. YouTube and Periscope, the Facebook ones, and we'll have to see how that all pans out. So I'm really excited to have got that bit sorted out as well. So I don't need quite so many layers on this evening. I've got the fire going. It's not that cold in here. So a big thank you to Daniel, I won't say your family name, who became a patron of DrivingMaul yesterday for the pricely sum of $1.50 a month. So thank you, sir. That is really much appreciated. And please do let me know what topics you'd like me to do a show on, and I'll look at trying to organise a special show on that topic. Obviously rugby related, please. You can also become a patron, or how it's spelt, by going to Patreon. Yep, there's an E in there. Patreon.com/DrivingMaul. Or the link is in the notes down below on YouTube. It's in the title on Periscope, and I'll put it in the comments on Facebook as well. You might say, hey, what's $1.50 a month? It means the world to me. Look, there's 1,500 of you guys subscribed nearly on YouTube. If you all gave $1 a month, hey, I'd be able to pretty much do this full time. So look, it really is appreciated. I do appreciate however much that is. So a big thank you to Daniel, and say get in touch, let me know what topic you'd like me to do, and I'll do a video just for you, or just on the topic that you choose, and we'll go from there. So tonight we're going to talk about the All Blacks. It's the All Blacks show. So please put your comments, or put your questions in the comments, and we will talk about and I'll talk about those. Other topics. I'm going to look through the news. All Blacks, go through the All Blacks news. So we're going to talk about things like the anthems. We've got the Murray All Blacks tour. And we'll also talk about the Sevens as well. Those seem to be the main topics going on at the moment on in the All Blacks kind of world. So first up, who do you actually think should be singing the anthems? Do you like having a singer to sing along? Do you think it should be a choir? I remember one of the Island tests in the USA, they had someone playing the violin, actually no person leading the singing at all, which I must admit in that case felt really kind of strange. But there is a school trio that have gone viral in New Zealand, singing the national anthem, and they're going to be invited to sing at sort of one of the All Blacks or one of the New Zealand rugby games this year. So that'd be very cool for them. And I quite like the idea of that, of having a sort of lesser known group. Obviously, they've got to be able to sing. Doing it. I personally like the whole choir thing. I'd rather than having one person up there singing personally. I like a singer should sing it, but someone who knows the words and has practiced a lot. Yes, very true. There was that case, apparently the national anthem for the rugby league game in the States, the anthem was butchered apparently. I didn't listen to that, but yes, it was supposed to be pretty bad. So clearly, yeah, you have to practice it. You have to know the words to the songs. Hey, quite often the person who's getting paid, so you'd think they'd practice beforehand. Personally, though, I'd like the idea of having a choir singing it, especially in the UK. You've got the various kind of army choirs and things like that that can sing it. I'm not really up for. I agree with Christian here. I'm not a great fan of an opera singer doing it, because I think it's one where you want it in a way that everyone can sing along and understand it. But yeah, I personally like the choirs that you get in you can get in Britain doing it. I know that some of you in the chat aren't all that don't agree with me. So I think it's going to be cool that these three school kids, schoolgirls, get a go, and I'm looking forward to hearing them do it. Next up, the Maori All Blacks are going to have a tour to South America, which is kind of an interesting one. I'm not sure they've been there before, and we've kind of mentioned previously that I think the Maori All Blacks should get more games. So this year, on Saturday, the 3rd of November, they'll play the US Eagles as part of a triple header in Chicago. That same weekend, the women's USA team will be playing England, and then the Ireland will be playing Italy, and they go 3 back-to-back games in Chicago, so that triple header. After they've played the US Eagles, they'll travel down to Brazil and play Brazil on the 10th of November, and then the weekend after that they'll travel to Chile and play Chile on the 17th of November. Now, previously we've kind of suggested, or on this show, or on Hash Rugby Chat show, that the Maori All Blacks should go and quite often play or I have anyway, the Pacific Island teams. I think that's a great idea as well, but that's clearly not happening. I always thought that would be a great idea to play that game prior to the Rugby Championship, but it looks like the Maori All Blacks schedule this year is going to be those 3 games, one in North America and then 2 down in South America. I think that's a great idea. 2 sides, Brazil and Chile now take part in the America's Championship, which is basically the America's Six Nations. So it's played during the same time as Six Nations is in the UK, and it involves the Argentinian 15, because obviously the Jaguares are playing at the same time, so it's not the first choice Argentinian side. It involves the USA, Canada, Uruguay, Brazil and Chile. So Brazil and Chile are 2 of the kind of tier 2, lower end tier 2 nations, let's be honest, or perhaps perhaps even counted as tier 3, that are up and coming. And so I think it's good to see a team going down and playing a serious team going out and playing Brazil and Chile in Brazil and Chile and giving them extra games. Jack said I don't think there should be a Maori All Black team, and there are a whole bunch of questions around selecting teams along ethnic lines, but I understand the culture and the history behind it, so I quite like the whole thing. And I know because it's picked along ethnic lines, they never get to play in South Africa, for example, where it's illegal to pick your teams along ethnic lines. That will exclude people. So I think, or at least that was a problem at one point. So I think that's something that's great that that Brazil and Chile are getting to play against what is very nearly a tier 1 team. They did go for something like 5 or 6 years without actually losing a game, and there was talk of that. Hey, are they good enough that they can actually be a tier 1 team in their own right? And if you look at perhaps how they played against the British and Irish Lions, you've got to say that perhaps they've slipped off that kind of level. They don't get much preparation time, so quite often for these things, a lot of these players will be playing in the Ice 10 Cup, for example. And so I say there won't be much preparation time for it. They won't have all the backup that a full All Blacks team does. I'm not a great fan. I think they should be called the New Zealand Maori. I'm not a great fan of them using the All Blacks kind of title in that way. And we talked about that before as well. That perhaps they should stick with their old and original name rather than the Maori All Blacks. But hey, that's what they're called nowadays, and there's not much we can do about it. So no point ranting and raving around all that. as I say, great to see them go play Brazil and Chile. Hopefully we'll see more of that going on in the future. And maybe in the future, New Zealand could invite Brazil or Chile over and say that, there won't be another June window, but what will become the July window to host and play the Maori All Blacks team, and perhaps host some games as well, and increase that schedule. I think that would be a good thing. So they got the new jersey, and as well with that, with the Maori design, and I'm not sure about the red sleeves, but apart from that, it looks like a good jersey. I think they'll sell plenty of those. Also, the coaches for the Maori All Blacks, generally it's not a full-time gig, and they just come together for this. So it's not like an international side where they're preparing away from all of this, unfortunately, either. So that'll be good. I think that's a positive move, and I'm happy to hear about that. Before we get on to the next thing, just a quick reminder that the best way you can help us out really is to tell your friends and other people about the shows, share it on social media, all that kind of stuff. So please do that, and also hit the like button on in YouTube, and retweet and all that kind of stuff on the old Periscope, and whatever you can do on Facebook. I'm sure there's some lovely like things you can do on there as well. So the Sevens Rugby World Cup is coming up. That's going to include the men's and the ladies. And of course, talking of new jerseys, we have to have new jerseys as well for the Sevens team. And what does it look like? Well, it looks black, basically, with the AIG on the front in a square, which is what you get on the New Zealand jerseys, except for the All Blacks. And yeah, it looks fine. It's another black jersey. Doesn't see there's much different or special about this one, to be honest. The dark energy jersey designs, the latest technology, and all of that kind of stuff that you always get through these kind of things. But it's another jersey. Obviously, it's all about raising money and that kind of stuff. But good. It's fine that it's there. Whatever. So the Red Sevens World Cup is live on Duke, is it? Okay, in New Zealand. So there you go. That's where you can capture that. And the format of this one is going to be different. So one of the things that they've been looking at is how do you fit in a Sevens tournament over a weekend on one pitch with just for men's and ladies. And the way they've decided to go is to sorry, everyone, hasn't pulled up the web page I was trying to pull up. It's her knockout competition. I must admit, I'm not fully behind this for two reasons. On the men's side of the competition, there is the non-top teams all have to play each other before they actually get an opportunity to play the top teams. So the top teams all get a bye in the first round, and the top 8 teams, which I think is a little bit unfair. If you're at this level, I think I think all the teams should start evenly, and we shouldn't be giving an advantage to the better teams straight away. Obviously, the better teams with their deeper squads will also have an advantage after that, because they can all, if any of the lower squads do beat one of the top 8, they'll be into their third game, whereas the top 8 will be into their second game. And so I think if you're going to have knockout, then I think you should have them all actually start at the same level, and not give 8 teams a bye in the first round, which is what's happening with the men's. In the women's tournament, there are less teams, and so they don't have the same situation, and all the teams start at the same level, and so they don't actually have the same problem, or because they've just got 16 teams in that one, and they start out at a kind of round of 16, go into quarterfinals, semi-finals, and then the final. So to win the competition, you've got to win 4 games on the trot, is how that figures out. For New Zealand, their opening game will be against Mexico, and as New Zealand are the number 1 seeds, let's be honest, they should be winning that one quite comfortably. After that, they'll be facing either England or Ireland. Now, Ireland have been a bit of a surprise package. Oh, sorry, the men's been a bit of a surprise package, haven't they, recently? Sorry. So England ranked number 8 and Ireland ranked number 9. So New Zealand, as obviously a first seed, you'd expect them, obviously they'll be looking at hopefully at least making the finals. You've got to say that England is going to be an obstacle for them. Then in the other half, you've got the United States versus China and Russia versus South Africa, who New Zealand will meet one of those if they make it through to the semi-final. And it's for them the 2 other sides that you've got to say are the top 2 very good sides. Canada and Australia are in the other half of the draw. So you expect one of those 2. I mean, it's France, Japan, Brazil, Fiji, Spain and Papua New Guinea in that half of the women's draw. But you definitely expect either Canada or Australia, to be honest, to come out of that and make the final. So that's how the women's make up. Going back to the men's tournament, and in the men's tournament, the New Zealand have been seeded. What's their seeding? Been seeded 3rd. And they will play either the 14th or 19th side, which we got there, which is Russia versus Hong Kong. So the men will face either Russia or Hong Kong in the round of 16. The chances are they'll be meeting Australia in the quarterfinals, and then either Fiji or Argentina are the most likely to reach the semi-finals. So you'd expect Fiji to be either facing New Zealand or Australia in the semi-finals. On the other side of the draw, South Africa are the number 1 seed, unsurprisingly, with Scotland at number 8, and then so they meet in. They'll probably meet in the quarterfinals, and then you've got England and the United States are 4th and 5th. One of those 2 you'd expect to meet South Africa in that semi-final. So that's all. That's how that all pans out. I know I'm sort of discounting those coming through the qualifying round, and there are some dangerous teams in there. Kenya, for example, have won a tournament. You've also got France in there, Tonga, Samoa. Actually, Samoa more than Tonga. And I say Ireland have been causing some issues in the London and Paris stops of the HSBC World Tour. So there are definitely dangerous teams to come out of that qualifying round into the main draw. But you'd expect the semi-finals to come out of that main draw and out of the top 8 teams. But as I say, Kenya in particular, France, Ireland, perhaps Wales, Samoa are the sides in there that could definitely cause some issues. So that's what we're looking at in the for the Rugby World Cup Sevens. The names, the sides have been named, but I'll be honest, I don't know the players well enough to talk about that, talk through that in any depth. Obviously, Portia Woodman's there, but apart from that, I couldn't really go in too much depth of the teams. It's obviously this is going to be one which is going to be one of the people like, because now people like DJ have moved on. As I say, it's all the teams have been, so go and have a look at those. You can check it all out on the All Blacks website if you want to have a look at who's there. So that's the news that I've found that's been going on around the around the All Blacks this past week. Obviously, with Super Rugby having its penultimate round and then the final round this weekend, a lot of the news on the 15s side is looking at that, and they're not really concerning themselves so much about the All Blacks. Let's be honest. Good to see Kieran Reid, the All Blacks captain, back in action. It's good to see him back in action, and to see that both Fafita and Bowden Barrett have got over their head injuries that they received in the second test against the French. So those players came back from injury. The All Blacks 2 weekend or 2 game resting is still having its impact on Super Rugby. So, for example, Damien McKenzie hasn't been rested twice yet, so he's going to be missing the final round of Super Rugby as his second weekend of rest. So the All Blacks policies are impacting Super Rugby still all the way even this deep into the competition. So just while you're thinking of any questions to put in the chat, just a quick reminder that you can get yourself a bottle of All Blacks Bottlepop.
Just a simple matter of draw and pass.
Put the link in the under the YouTube. Otherwise, just go look, search for Bottlepops. Sure, if you use the link, I do get 10%, and if you don't, then you don't. But hey, they're just fun things to have for that All Blacks fan in your life who already owns everything. So, that's all the topics I had down for this week. I'll try and be a bit more organised next week and have my guests back on. A couple of them have been busy with the Football World Cup that is ongoing. It's even though I've muted a lot of those comments, a lot of the hashtags and words, it's very difficult to be missing to avoid that. Obviously, it's reached the semi-final stage, which France has got through, and then England, and I've gone blank as to who they're playing next tomorrow night. So that's taking up some people's time, and others just are generally busy. So hopefully, I'll have my sort of guests back again next week. So Jack asked in the chat, what rugby match are you most looking forward to coming up? Well, from an international point of view, clearly it's looking forward to the Bledisloe and the kick-off of the Rugby Championship. From a non-international point of view, this weekend in the Super Rugby, you've got to say that the game that looks most intriguing is the Sharks versus the Jaguares, as that will probably decide whether the Sharks make it, into the finals, or whether the I've gone blank. The Rebels drop out of it. So those two are. So to me, that's the Jaguares, but the Sharks versus Jaguares is the game I'm looking forward to most this weekend. So, thank you everybody for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button and down below. Also, as I say, be like Daniel and become a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. He went for $1.50, which was very nice of him. And Alex the other day went for $10. So it all helps me. For example, the way that I've been able to go live tonight on Facebook, that now is going to cost me $19 a month for that service. But if you go to Patreon, I think it just helps me cover my costs, and that would be much appreciated. So thank you very much for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow night with the preview of the Super Rugby games this weekend, looking at the squads that are being announced. Joining me on that will be Shane from Australia and Phila from South Africa will be joining me on that tomorrow night at 8 p.m. New Zealand time. So come and get the preview and see how their predictions compare to mine of the final round of the regular season for Super Rugby before we hit the finals.